Do you want to see the 600 people who are likely to be running and changing the world we're going to live in 20 years? If you think about what it takes in most of these countries to get into law school, to found a Jessup team, to do the work it takes to get here, and then actually be here, it just tells you the extraordinary potential and resilience of this group.
Britannia owes no compensation to Amalia.
First, we consider
any principles of customary international law.
This is a clip from the documentary All Rise, and our next guests are taking us on a journey to meet the next generation of world leaders and peacemakers.
That's right. Here with the inside scoop on the new documentary All Rise is director Jay Shapiro and lawyer now, he's an official attorney, but law student during the filming of that, Jonathan Morgan. Welcome to the show.
Jonathan Morgan, Esquire.
Right.
Thank you for
He's
having
official now.
That's right. Well, congratulations on being a new member of the bar. You're practicing in Jamaica.
That's correct.
That's right. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Jay, I want to start with you about the premise of this documentary. It's about a mock court called Jessup.
Yeah.
Tell us, I think the average person doesn't know what that is unless they go to law school.
Yeah.
What is Jessup?
So I didn't know what it was either when this was brought to me. It is the largest moot court competition in the world. So it's students arguing a fictional case and treating it as if it's real, but it's a fictional case that never happened. This particular one is a simulation of the International Court of Justice.
And these students, just as a quick follow-up, students are from 90 countries.
Yeah, name a country and
they're from hundreds and hundreds of law schools. How are the ones that form the teams that compete here, how are they chosen? Where do you find them?
Where
do they find them?
Yeah, they sort of find them. They come sort of organically from their law schools. Jonathan could probably answer a little bit more about how, for example, his team was formed in Jamaica. I know, and he could tell you at his school, it's a competitive process just to get on the team, let alone get to where he got to in the competition.
All right, so Jonathan, give us a little bit of background on that.
Well, my school has a rigorous trial period where they first put out the notices inviting you to try out. You have to do a bit of research on their fictional problem and then sit before a panel of judge being scrutinized to the letter as to whether you are able and qualified to speak on behalf of not only the school but the country.
Wow, and you were one of 7 students to be featured in this documentary. Why was it important for you to take part in it?
Well, the documentary is an absolutely wonderful snapshot of what it takes to participate in the Jessup. So for me, it was not only a way to put little Jamaica on a very large map, but also it was an excellent way to contribute towards telling the story of this Jessup competition. And
it is a moot court, as Jay said, so it's a competition. It's a mock-up, though, of a real court.
Yes.
The International Court of Law, is that the correct name for it?
International Court of Justice.
International Court of Justice. And so really prepares students to be able to litigate on an international level. Talk a little bit more about that, Jay.
Well, so the International Court of Justice, it's the arm of the UN, the judicial arm of the UN. It's in The Hague, and they hear the only applicants and respondents who are able to present there are actual countries. So this is country against country, and it's disputes of boundary issues and all kinds of issues that come to that court. So the students are challenged with, again, a fictional problem that presents an area in the law that's undecided. The cases that they write in the Jessup are really good at sort of predicting what's coming next in international law. For example, a few years ago, there was a compromise. That's the name of sort of a fictional story. It's called the compromise. There was a compromise about drone issues, which is now, of course, out there.
Absolutely.
This year, there's a case that's basically ripped out of the headlines of the Snowden affair. Jonathan's particular case that we follow in the film, and we don't quite get into the weeds of the intricate details of the case in the film, but it's about underwater maritime boundaries and judicial lines and all kinds of stuff that has a real impact in the world. So you're right, they get a chance to practice what's really important.
Kind of a warm-up for the real thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Do you think anyone really knew before this what the International Court of Justice did or that they existed? And what do you hope people take away from the film?
I don't know if people still know what they do. Frankly, I don't know if they know what they do. In a large way, the whole endeavor of international law, I hope what the film does, to answer your question, is starts this conversation about what is international law, what will it be, what could it be, what should it be. Because it is in large part sort of a theoretical thing. When we think about law, in somewhere like America, we think there's a set of laws and then there's these people that enforce the laws. Well, when you're talking internationally, the second part of that equation doesn't really exist. Who's there to enforce it? And it becomes this almost sort of language that needs to be developed and come to the surface. So I'm hoping the film brings this conversation to the public, and people who've never thought about that start to think about that. And next time they see a news story come out of something around the world, of some conflict, they just go in a slightly different mental trajectory about what issues are at play.
Now, Jonathan, I'm so curious about your experience
Yes.
at Jessup. What was it like? How stressful was it? And how did your team do?
Well, the experience begins not only at the international round, which is largely featured at the second half of the film, but it begins at the trial and then the preparation period, which spans over 8 months. Now, it's a very rigorous period to first produce a written paper on the issues and then to prepare yourself for the oral competition at the national level, where you have to compete against others in your jurisdiction, and then at the international level. So there's a phrase that I liked to throw around quite a bit, and it was that Jessup is the hardest thing that I've ever wanted to repeat.
Wow.
It's very difficult, it's very challenging, and it's absolutely rewarding as a result.
Wow, so we won't, I guess you're not going to let the cat out the bag and tell us how you guys did. You want to ruin the film.
I can throw in a little bit about that. So the first stage of the international competition is a preliminary round, and the second stage is the advanced round. Only 32 universities out of approximately 600 can make it to the advanced round, and we entered that round seeding 10th. Unfortunately, Oxford University from the UK put us out of the competition in the advanced round.
Ah, those darn Brits.
Yeah.
Well, just to get there, though, it was a Herculean effort. I'm wondering, from your standpoint, as an attorney,
Yes.
you know, you're a new practicing attorney, really sort of seeing what the world is really like. What do you hope people take away from seeing you all go through this experience? And then, as Jay sort of alluded to, how that applies to the broader issues in the world?
That's something that's actually very close to me. I mentioned it recently in a number of discussions. I hope that people are able to see, from my perspective at least, that anything is possible. That there is no limit on your capacity, and it's not based on your background, your upbringing, or any of the restrictions that you may have had, financial or otherwise. Literally, any obstacle can be overcome through belief and effort. And I hope that that comes out in at least some of the stories that they will see in this film.
Now, after all the hard work that you've put into it, are you still happy with your choice to become an attorney?
I am, and I am certain that my employers will not have me say otherwise.
Right. But what kind
You
of
are
law do
very
you
smart.
practice?
I practice civil and commercial litigation.
Okay.
So I take the what may be fanciful contracts or so, and I handle it when it gets to the rough side in the courts of Jamaica.
Very quickly, Jay, I'm just curious, was it a challenge at all? Because, no offense, but sometimes the practice of law can be a little arcane. It might not be interesting to the casual observer. Was that a challenge for you as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I think if people see the film, they'll see what we tried to do, which was make lawyers cool. In a sense, and it frankly wasn't that hard because international law is a different animal. These students are all really idealistic, and they see the world in a certain way. So we tried to get into their personal stories of really what motivates them to want to do law in the first place. So in the film, you hear about a Ugandan student who went through a bully crisis as a child. We filmed in Israel and Palestine, so you get quite a bit of conflict and tragedy in their stories. So you get sort of this broad scope, because what we forget in sort of all these esoteric discussions about what law is or whatever, it's people that make it. And this particular competition in this film, I hope, is a lens not just to open this discussion, but to get a glimpse at who are the people who are going to be shaping our world in the future, and seeing really what makes them tick.
Yeah, it was a powerful documentary.
Yeah, what I've seen, I haven't seen the whole thing. I can't wait to see the whole thing. It's really, it's riveting. You know, I was clenched and on the edge of my seat. So congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
And please tell everyone where they can see it.
Well, it's premiering as part of the Doc NYC Film Festival here in New York next Saturday at 6:45 p.m. at the IFC Center downtown. So come out and see it. And then there's another screening on Thursday later that week during the day at 12:45. And then we'll see from there. Just keep an eye out for it.
All right.
Great. Jay Shapiro, Jonathan Morgan, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Speaking with you.
Thanks for having us.
And we'll be right back with more Rise 360.